to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see how spring is like on Jupiter and Mars.
G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a very special piece to show you guys to review, and this one a quick shout out to local friend and collaborator Graham, who has once again made a piece available. Very fascinating piece for me to feature, so let's just get into it. Yes, you recognize the box probably. This is none other than the legendary Omega Moonwatch. So just quickly showing you the outer box. This is what it looks like. It is massive, it is very heavy, and it is actually made of a very thick card here, lined with a sponge inner layer, and this is how it opens up. So this is just to show you guys quickly, this is the inner box that actually holds the watch and the accessories. So I'm just going to get this out because I'll show this to you in detail in a little bit. Alright, so just going to put it aside and show you what's inside the box. Here is, you got the manual, and I'll show that to you quickly later. You got some cards here, including the international warranty, as well as the pictograms, and the actual distributor has to put their card in here. So let's put that aside. That sits at the edge of the box here. And then inside you have, further under the inner box, some product manuals or actually brochures, a little manual to show you how to change the strap. So I'll just kind of gonna flip through that for you guys in a moment when I zoom in to show you the actual box. So that's the outer box. I'm going to put that aside now, and we'll zoom in, turn the camera around, and take a look at the box and the watch. Alright guys, so here we have the inner box here. Now it's made of again, I think thick card inside, or a very I guess solid, some sort of material, maybe even MDF, but it's covered by this cloth decoration on the outside. There is a solid metal, steel metal here. It still has this protector, and out of respect to my collaborator, I'm not going to remove that. So opening this is this couple of steel hooks. So release it, and then it opens the inner box. So just show it to you at the top there. It does say Omega Speedmaster. Probably can't show it, but the top of the case there is Omega Speedmaster. And then this is what you get inside. So this is a Speedmaster medal, nicely etched. It's just decorative, I suppose, or maybe some people use it as a paperweight, but that's what that is. On this side, you get a bit of a loop with a tachymeter decoration around the outside in homage of the Moonwatch itself, right? So that's a loop for you to look at details of the watch, right? Put it there. And then at the back here, what we have are a couple of straps, as well as storage space for spare links, links that I've removed to fit my wrists. I put the tag in there, or at least Graham has. And then this one is a very nice spring bar removal tool. So this is what this is. I'll just quickly show it to you. All right, there's no screwdriver. I wish they would have given a screwdriver that is custom made to the bracelet, but this is what they've given, a spring bar removal tool. And then just to show you, this is a NATO style strap, branded Omega, of a quality that is exceeding just about anything that I've seen, apart from perhaps that Tudor NATO, that woven NATO that I featured on that Tudor Ranger, Heritage Ranger a while back, but this is a very nice NATO otherwise. Okay, so that one, and then this one is a curiosity. So this is actually, I think, an astronaut strap, or the strap that the astronauts actually use, but it's not, I think, the most amazing thing. It's really just what appears to be a nylon strap with a Velcro attachment. And if you look at pictures of the astronauts, or the instructions later, in my understanding, the way you would wear it is you put the watch in that position, and you would kind of like put it around your wrist like that, and then loop it around and get the Velcro here. Now, my wrist is not very big, 17 centimeters, and that would actually go over where the watch is, but the watch would sit there, and you kind of strap it across. I guess that is a safety feature, double looping, but that's kind of like how it's supposed to sit according to instructions and according to historical pictures that I have seen and they have provided. So that's a little bit of a curiosity actually. So I just want to show you some of these other booklets here quickly. So Omega Legendary Moonwatch, and this one is actually, you can pause and read that if you want, but it's a bit of a historical tale here, right? First Speedmaster in space. This was Wally Schirra, astronaut, testing for the robustness, flight certified in 1965, right? Moon landing 1969, various space missions, and there's Buzz Aldrin with the Moonwatch, and you can see the strap that he's wearing indeed is actually double looped around the wrist as per what I have just shown, and then it goes on to various things, and I won't have time to show all that. This one is actually a strap changing booklet, which is also another interesting thing actually, because it doesn't actually have a lot of language in there. It's actually using a lot of pictures. This one's, I find that entertaining actually, just showing you, be careful because you can put a deep gouge into the metal if you slip with that spring bar removal tool. And just to show you again how they instruct to wear that astronaut strap, right? Double looping around the wrist. Okay, so that's really how it is. Okay, and then on the reverse side, if you had a watch with a leather strap, then they would actually show you leather strap instructions. Okay, quickly now through the manual. Nothing much to say. I've already featured this in the Omega Planet Ocean, but it is a multi-caliber manual, just to show you. And the Moonwatch is this one, 1861 caliber, right? 45 pages is the English section, so definitely not the whole thing. And Moonwatch caliber would be there on this page. And that's really all you need to know in terms of instructions to operate. I mean, there are other general care instructions, but that's really where the page is for this Moonwatch caliber. All right, put that aside. And then just to show you, I won't show you all this, of course, I know that's just warranty, but the pictograms, for those who may not be aware, there isn't much that the Moonwatch has. So 5-bar water resistance, right, 2-year warranty. I think they've actually extended that to 5-year warranty now. That's what it says on the website anyway. Manual winding and tachymeter for the bezel. It's not even a cost chronometer, definitely not sapphire, etc. This one I think refers to the special box with the accessories. And that's it, for the legendary Moonwatch, arguably the most famous Omega of all. This is all the pictograms that it gets, which is very interesting for me to see actually. So guys, that's the box here with all the presentation stuff. So what I'm going to do now is zoom in and let's just focus in on the watch itself. All right guys, so here we have the Moonwatch in close-up here. So let's just pick it up and show it to you. So this is the Omega Moonwatch Speedmaster Professional Chronograph 42mm. That's the listing official order of the name on the official Omega website. Model numbers will be put down below here and in the description because it's just way too long for me to read out. So of course the main claim to fame is the 1969 moon landing, but the first release was actually 12 years before that. 1957, the Speedmaster was first released. It didn't look exactly like this, but a lot of the design elements have remained the same over the years. And then later on in 1962, it was the first Speedmaster in space. There was an astronaut who went to space, not to the moon, just orbiting the Earth in 1962 wearing a Speedmaster. And then in 1965 was the official testing by NASA, which led to the spaceflight certification of this watch. So those are some of the biggest claim to fames of the Moonwatch. But in terms of pop culture, it has, of course, appeared in many pop culture references. And two recent ones that I just want to share that stick in my mind are George Clooney in The American, so that 2010 movie where I think he was a weapons specialist and he used this to time assembly of rifles. So that was quite an interesting look to the use of a Speedmaster, George Clooney being a collector himself. And then somewhat later on in 2016, Jason Statham featured in Mechanic Resurrection, and this watch, the Moonwatch, featured as his father's watch, which played a role in the plot. Very curiously though, they used this in the opening sequence, and it played an alarm, which was obviously a battery quartz alarm. So it was a bit weird that they chose to put that in the story. It was just, obviously wrong. Okay, so pop culture aside, this one currently MSRP is 5,250 USD. With grey retail, of course, you're going to be able to get it much cheaper than that, around the 3,700 mark as far as I have researched. And obviously I'll put links below to anything I can find. All right, movement wise, so this one is the Omega Calibre 1861 or 1861, not the original caliber. So the original one, the 321 that first went to the moon, was a column wheel chronograph. It is no longer a column wheel chronograph. Later it was replaced by the 861 and then updated to 1861 when they put in rhodium plating, which is supposedly maybe more corrosion resistant. Maybe it was just aesthetic. And that change happened around the mid-90s, around 1996. So the movement is actually Lemania based. Lemania no longer exists. It's been absorbed into Breguet. Now Breguet is a Swatch company. So under the same umbrella as Omega, you can argue whether it truly is an in-house movement or not. I'm not going to put any judgments on that. They are under both the Swatch umbrella there. Okay, so 21,600 beats per hour. Curiously as well, they haven't changed the speed. It is still a 21,600 beat per hour chronograph movement. 18 joules, not a whole lot of joules. 48 hour on the power reserve. And you'll know that this is actually hand winding. It's no automatic chronograph. It is actually a mechanical chronograph with hand winding, and it also does not hack when you adjust the time. The second hand, which is featured here in the 9 o'clock register, will keep ticking along. One thing about hacking I'll say is that I do enjoy the fact that it stops. So I'm gonna let you hear that hopefully. And when you wind it fully, it very distinctly reaches an increased resistance where it just stops. You just don't want to wind it anymore, and that lets you know it's full. And I really like that. That didn't happen with some of the other hand winding movements I've seen. I really like that this lets you know it's wound full. All right, so in terms of the three registers, so 369 register, of course, it is a 30-minute totalizer at the 3 o'clock and a 12-hour totalizer at the 6 o'clock. I've stopped the chronograph here, the central seconds hand here, just to show you something a bit later on in terms of its function. In actual use, this isn't a cost chronometer. I don't know what the rated accuracy is, but in actual use, it's running +2 seconds per day, which is excellent. It might as well be cost certified, but it actually isn't. Omega hasn't done that with this watch. Okay, moving on to the case then. 42mm 3160L steel diameter. The actual bezel is actually 40mm if you actually take the diameter of the bezel alone. Thickness wise is 14.3 millimeters on the thickness, and the lug width is 20 millimeters with a lug to lug distance of 48 millimeters here. Overall weight adjusted, because I've taken out two of the links, is actually 143 grams. Of course, if you do put in all the links, and I think I've removed 3 links, it will weigh somewhat slightly heavier than that. Okay, on to finishing there. It's alternating polish, right? The bezel side is polished, and then you're moving on to a circular brushing on the inside surface of the lug there, and then you got that polished bevel, very nicely done polished bevel there, and then you got longitudinal brushing on the side surface, right? That's the same on the other side as well. And then the case back, or the back of the case, I should say, is actually polished, and so is the actual most of the case back, at least the side there. The actual flat surface of the case back is again circular brush there. Okay, so that's the polishing and the finishing of the case there with that edge case back. So just show you this famous case back here. Let me turn it right side up. Right, Speedmaster, that famous Omega, sea monster type of logo in the middle there. That's nicely etched, but the rest of it's actually more like laser printing. So look at those famous words. They're first qualified by NASA for all manned space missions. First watch worn on the moon. Professional Moonwatch on the bevel there. Right, that's really the wordings you see there. You know, that sticker that I have there is actually just out of respect to my collaborator to block the serial number. I don't know if it matters if you know the serial number. Let me know if you think you can do something when you know the serial number of watch. I'm not aware that you can really achieve anything by knowing the serial number, but other people do it, so I've done it out of respect there. Okay, so with that etched screw-in case back and the push crowns, pushers, right? There's no screw-in on this crown, obviously. The water rating that they give this watch is 50 meters. So obviously it's not for swimming, right? You don't take this for swimming, but you know, accidental splashing, washing hands, I think would be okay. But you probably want to avoid that if you were the owner of this watch anyway. Let me know if you do otherwise. Okay, moving on to the dial now. Okay, that famous Speedmaster dial. This is a matte black dial, printed details all over. There is not a single applied element anywhere on this dial. Okay, but nicely, sharply printed. It's got recessed registers. It's probably difficult for me to show there, but those registers have a slight recess in them, like a kind of a shallow bowl shape. Okay, and then the printings inside those registers there. The main hands are white, simple white baton style. You know those hands. There's the arrow central seconds chronograph hand there, now pointing at about 4:30, and then just simple sticks for the register hands there. The loom is only for the central hands, right? The chronograph central seconds, and then the hour and minute hands. So you won't be able to actually use the chronograph in the dark. You won't actually be able to tell the time. You will be able to see it running because the central seconds will be moving. Okay, so that's really how it looks like in the dark. Moving on to the bezel then, it's that famous, right, black tachymeter bezel that's been copied by many a watch. The insert, I believe, is aluminium. Omega hasn't stated this on the official site, but many sources seem to imply that it is an aluminium insert there. Some people say steel, but I think more commonly it is actually stated as aluminium, so I think that's likely what it is. Okay, and then moving on, above that is that very well-known domed and profiled Hesalite acrylic glass. Just beautifully profiled there. I mean, look at how it distorts the dial at the side here, and I really have come to appreciate the benefits, the strengths of this Hesalite crystal. And at first I wasn't sure why I would bother getting this, but I can see the allure of it now, and I'll refer to that later on. Okay, so now the case and the movement altogether faced NASA testing regime, right, in the 1965, and I'll put the details on the side here, for you to pause and read if you want to, but I'll just highlight a couple which I thought was remarkable. High temperature tests, 70 degrees for 48 hours, and then 93 degrees, very hot, espresso coffee hot for 30 minutes in a partial vacuum. That's just remarkable. And then number 3 was a vacuum test, heated in a vacuum chamber, right, then cooled to minus 18 degrees for several cycles. That is just, really very, very intense testing. And then number 6, shock resistance, 6 40G shocks in 6 different directions. Number 7, acceleration tests, progressive acceleration to 7.25G for 5 minutes, and then to 16G, right, beyond what a human can withstand for 30 seconds in 3 axes. I mean, it's just remarkable the amount that this went through, and this was the only watch that was still running at the end of the test. All the other watches that were submitted failed and stopped running, in my understanding. Okay, so remarkable stuff. Moving on to the bracelet then. Right, show that to you guys. Alternating, polish on the side, and then it's mostly brushed on the top with those relief polished surfaces, in the size of the central link there. Okay, so that's really the finishing. This famous bracelet, very well known. You've seen this before, more than likely, if you're a watch enthusiast, and that's really the finishing here. It is, of course, screw links, and the screw is quite interesting. You have to actually remove both sides, and then there's the central spindle that you remove to actually take the link off. Solid end links, of course, and then a solid deployant clasp, right? Milled, very solid. Only one position for adjustment there, right? You only have 2 different settings there for you to micro adjust there. Otherwise, you have to change links out. Okay, so that's really the description of the watch. Let me just quickly pop it on for the wrist shot of this beautiful piece. And there we go, Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch on my 17 centimeter wrist, remembering it's 48 millimeters lug to lug. I think this is fine for me. It is a large watch, but it is fine for my wrist size, I think. Right, that's how it sits. Okay, so what can you discuss about the Moonwatch? You know, what makes this so good? You know, it is arguably one of the most iconic chronographs of all time, if not the most iconic. You know, what do you think of Rolex Daytona, maybe Zenith El Primero, perhaps even the Breitling Navitimer, maybe even the Tag Heuer, the Monaco? You know, this is in the top 5, I think, of almost anybody's list of iconic chronographs of all time. Legendary status, and of course that unbeatable, unmatched legacy of being the Moonwatch, the first watch worn on the moon. It just sets this watch absolutely apart. If you own one Omega, perhaps this might be the only one you choose to own, and it's absolutely fair if that was the case. Right, that well-loved classic design, instantly recognizable as the Omega Moonwatch, or a copy if you see some watch that looks quite like this. It's got actually a very great case design. You know, I really like the sleekness of the case. It's actually quite thin, you know, considering this is a chronograph. The asymmetric sides, you know, just to point that out, right, that side is actually not the same as that side. There's a little bit more material sticking out on the pusher side compared to the non-pusher side. Right, it's most obvious here, you can see that. And that's just great, you know, I like that it's asymmetric. It's not just completely the same on both sides. It's got those lovely, very well done knurled lugs. Okay, really like those lugs, and similar to the Seamaster that I have. And just the sharpness of the finishing, you know, it's absolutely top quality. No, nothing other than what you would expect, I think, that Omega would put into, you know, what is probably their most famous watch. You know, I really enjoy the Hesalite crystal. There's just a different feel as you run your finger across it. And people say that it doesn't fingerprint as much as sapphire. And that is absolutely true. It doesn't really pick up fingerprints very easily. Even as I'm, you know, rubbing my thumb across here, you can see, doesn't really take the mark out. Of course, it's got the toughness of a Hesalite acrylic, right? Very, very difficult to crack. It doesn't shatter. You can crack it, but it takes a huge amount of energy to actually crack this, and that's why it's chosen rather than sapphire. Sapphire would not be allowed because of the risk of shattering. It's got great visual characteristic, slight cloudiness, which is kind of the vintage thing that people like, and then of course the distortion characteristics that you can get here. And then if you scratch it, and yes, you can scratch it quite easily, you can actually polish it out. You can get a paste to actually polish out the scratches, which a lot of people also like. And then, you know, overall, it remains flight certified for NASA, for all space missions by NASA. You know, this watch still is worn in space appropriately, apparently is standard equipment for NASA still to this day. All right, now weaknesses, it's not so much weaknesses, I think just things to be taken note of. And the first couple of things are real, you know, potential issues here. So one thing is the chronograph readout. Okay, so let's let you read here. The chronograph central seconds is at 22 seconds. Right now it's reading 21 minutes, you can see that, right? And then it's rounded up to 1 hour. So one thing to say is that it's actually probably not 21 minutes, actually 51 minutes, because it's rounded to the 1 hour on the 6 o'clock register here. So 1 is pointing at the 1, so this is actually 51 minutes. And that's an issue as well, actually, with that hour readout, but not as big an issue as the minute readout. So I'm going to click it on and let you see there. So as it goes past the 30-second mark, you can see you still read it as 51 minutes, right? That minute hand hasn't moved. But let me just let it go forward to 50-something seconds. Okay, so now it's 54 seconds, still reading at 51 minutes. You can see that minute hand pointing at the 21 mark on that register there. Right, it hasn't moved at all. It will start moving when the second hand clicks past about 57 seconds. And then I want you to see when it actually clicks on to 22. Okay, so you can see it's clicked on to 22 now, but the central seconds hasn't actually reached 60. It's 59 point something seconds, and that's a problem. Right? What is this telling you now? Is it 52 minutes and 59 seconds or 51 minutes and 59 seconds? We know it's 51 because of what we've just done, but that's a potential problem, okay? So you can see it was actually 51.59, not 52.59. And that's been described by other people. All right, so that's the thing about the chronograph. If you let it run all the way to 12 hours, it actually will run past. So it doesn't stop at 12 hours. It will actually keep timing. Just so you know, it doesn't stop once you reach the limit of the hour totalizer there. All right, so that's the chronograph. Now, it's got no modern comforts. That's the other thing you would take note of, right? It's manual wind. It doesn't have a date. It doesn't have hacking, right? It doesn't have sapphire or a display back if you wanted to see that movement. You can get a sapphire display back version with sapphire glass, so that's an option. Now, people will talk about the fact that they love the Hesalite, the fact that they love the manual wind. I don't see people going around saying they love having no date. That's typically not something that people say, as well as hacking for a watch that, you know, ostensibly is supposed to be for timing, right? Space operation, for example. For it to be non-hacking is a bit of a curiosity to me. I thought you would want it to hack if timing was a critical issue, but let me know if I'm misunderstanding that. All right, so the movement as well, take note, it's original spec 21,600 beat per hour. It's not the higher Swiss movement. It's a cam lever actuated chronograph, so it's not even a column wheel. It's got none of the Omega modern advantages. So just to let you know, it's not a cost certified, but it might as well be. NASA actually stipulates plus or minus 5 seconds per day. But it's not a master chronometer, so it's not an anti-magnetic movement, nor is it a coaxial escapement movement. All right, so those are the things that you would take note of if you were going to consider this watch. I mean, I think it doesn't put people off because of all those classic vintage findings, but let me know if some of those, you know, kind of gives you pause to splurge out on a Moonwatch. And the last thing I would say is that, right, they haven't actually changed the chronograph sub-seconds there. So it's actually divided into 1/5 of a second. You might not be able to see it, but if you zoom in on pictures on the web, you'll see that it is 1/5 of a second. Now, that would make sense for the original movement, which was 1800 beat per hour, because it's 5 hertz. This movement is 6 hertz, so it times 1/6 of a second. Why didn't they change it to 1/6 of a second? Who knows? You know, I thought that would make sense, but maybe it's because you don't stuff around with a classic, right? Or you could, but your fans, you know, most of your fans probably wouldn't love you for it. So maybe that's why they haven't touched that dial. They've left it at 1/5 of a second. So guys, that's enough of it. You know, that's my review of this legendary watch. So, you know, let's flip the camera around and go back to the table shot for the wrap up. All right, guys, there we have it. That's my review of what is nothing short of a legendary piece, a very special watch, the Moonwatch, nonetheless. Guys, you know, let me know your thoughts about it. You know, if you have this watch, I'd like to hear your experiences, you know, your views and how you find this watch after using it, or even if you don't have it, if you have any other editions of the Moonwatch, there are so many. I'd like to hear your thoughts and experiences. So guys, if you like my videos, do consider subscribing. I put out new content every week, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you for sticking with me, and as always, I'll catch you guys next time.
In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me.